They might not remember your name, but they have given you some Nepali nickname.
Yeah.
Are you aware of that?
Takludai. Well, a lot of my non-Nepali friends call me Takludai, and are you kidding me? I love it. It's a great nickname. Very proudly bald. Bald is beautiful, so yeah, I love it. I think it's nicer than my original name, Andrew. Takludai. One run defeat to South Africa. In Bangladesh, I think it was 83 for 9. They should have closed that game out. And then this time they came even closer in many ways to England by just 4 runs. With less funding, with less fixture opportunities, with less facilities in the country, with less player pool. They don't have less fans in Nepal, because that's the one thing Nepal brings in unbelievable spades. Like, Italy beating Nepal for me wasn't a big surprise. But they were poor. They were really poor that day.
One hit away. Audience are expecting too high. What went wrong? Why Sompal Kami was not playing in 2 games? I've been noticing all your videos on your Insta and then all your social sites. You're like very active. Tell me why Nepalese are loving you so much. I'm kind of jealous, but then I really want to know. Maybe I will know the secret of your...
It's a good question. I haven't really, I get asked it quite a lot. I haven't really been able to work it out, if that makes sense. I think we just both share a massive passion for cricket. So that's something that has always been in my life since a very young age, and obviously is a massive part of Nepali culture now. So it's not something I overly understand. It's something I'm very grateful for, and often surprises me and blows me away, particularly when I'm in Nepal. But then during the last few weeks here in Mumbai, with so many tens of thousands of Nepalese people coming down, and obviously travelling from not just Nepal but all over the world. I met people who flew from America, from Australia, people who are living and working here and studying here, and travelled planes, trains and automobiles. It's been pretty amazing. Yeah, it's been a very emotional couple of weeks.
You always say that Nepal is your second home. Are you missing your second home?
Absolutely, always, yeah. Look, it's my second home for a reason, because I feel very comfortable there, I feel very at home there, and I feel very, very loved there, and just myself. So, because I'm on the road so much, I do about 330 days of the year on the road each year. So with that in mind, I probably spend as much time as I do in Ireland as I do in Nepal, where I'm originally from. So to be taken in like I have been there, up there in Nepal, is very special.
What is that one thing which you always miss in Nepal? Yeah?
I don't think it's one thing. I think it's probably the general multiplicity of things. Yeah, a lot of the way Nepal works is the vibe and the atmosphere, the joy, and the sense of humour that people have as well. So there's a real beauty to the people there. The people make any place you go to. I'm a big firm believer in that. The people are what make the places you go. So yeah, for Nepal, it's the people, absolutely, the food as well, the drink, the culture, the music, the vibrancy, the atmosphere, the busyness. But there's something kind of almost a little bit sacred about Nepal. And I think a lot of people who've been there will have experienced that. And it's somewhere that's really close to my heart.
Which one is your favorite food in Nepal, if I may ask?
It's always the momo for me, particularly the chicken kote momo with lots of extra sauce, if I can get extra sauce.
But that will be too spicy for you, isn't it?
No, not the kote. Like if you get the dal momo with the soup, it's
much about it, but yeah.
Yeah, so the kote momo they're just pan fried, a little bit on both sides. You get that little tomato sauce on the side.
You're sounding so Nepali to me right now.
I don't know, but certainly it's something I love, absolutely.
Let's jump into the cricket. How was your expectations? Did that match, or?
Do you mean personally or for the?
Personally, we are only talking about the personal experience and expectations towards Nepali cricket.
Irish people, I suppose, we don't do particularly well at talking about ourselves. It's usually something we want to try and move on from. But look, on a personal level, to be here at a World Cup, 10 years on from when I was working for the ICC at this same event, that's been a bit of a trip and a bit of a deja vu, and meeting lots of former colleagues, and I think their love towards me has been really special. I think they've been proud of me being here. I never thought I'd necessarily get to commentate at a Cricket World Cup, so to be here at the ICC Men's T20 World Cup as part of, you know, the 40 most elite commentators in the world it's the stuff of dreams, honestly. yeah, and just to receive some of the messages from family and friends back home to have been watching on a global broadcast has been very overwhelming, very special, and something that will stay with me for a long time. Yeah.
Now, I really want to know your honest answer. Since you're closely doing commentary for Nepal, if you'll compare 2024 World Cup and 26, what has improved? Where are they lacking?
Yeah, so the team's definitely developing, definitely moving in the right direction. It's a very different side under Stuart Law to the one that was under Monty Desai. Monty Desai's a beautiful man, a really good friend of mine. Stuart Law's a great friend as well. But they're very different kind of guys. Monty was very much about a wholesome family culture and one-ball battles and making sure that everything was always 100% unified and together. Stuart's a bit more Australian, a bit more ruthless, and wants to focus on winning a bit more. And that's why I think he was pretty strong after those defeats to Italy and the West Indies in terms of calling the players out a little bit. And actually, I think that was probably the right thing to do. I think after the England heartbreak and so how close the side came, there was naturally going to be a change in the expectations, and the change in the expectations led to two really poor performances. One in particular, they were very poor against Italy. I think the West Indies game I can forgive a lot more because of the toss in the morning. The conditions were completely different at 11 a.m. to what it was 2 hours later at 1 p.m. When the West Indies batted. So I think the team's developing, moving in the right direction. They came really close to a couple of massive upset victories in St. Vincent in particular. In 2024, one-run defeat to South Africa. They had Bangladesh, I think it was 83 for 9. They should have closed that game out. And then this time they came even closer in many ways to England by just 4 runs. But they had the game in the palm of their hands with 11 to win off 8. But I think one thing to get across for anyone listening or watching or thinking about cricket, to try and explain as to how difficult it is to beat the big sides as a smaller side, with less funding, with less fixture opportunities, with less facilities in the country, with less player pool. They don't have less fans in Nepal, because that's the one thing Nepal brings in unbelievable spades, that fever pitch atmosphere wherever they go in the world. But for a smaller side to beat the bigger sides, for the associate teams to beat the full members, is incredibly difficult. So they've come incredibly close in 3 of the 4 attempts that they've had over the last 2 years. But the side on the whole is moving in the right direction. The general standard of cricket is uplifting, not just from Nepal, but the other nations. So to try and keep up is difficult. But the thing I was most pleased about last night with their last game was they got back to their brand of cricket. And they really showed the world how brilliant the associate game is. 2 of the very best associate sides, Nepal and Scotland, playing out an all-time classic at the Wankhede, and it was an epic encounter, one I'll never forget.
Tell me your reaction when you see just 4 run away, 1 hit away with England.
Yeah.
How difficult was that to, be in the middle of the commentary box and then just keep calm yourself? Because I was almost getting heart attack.
Yeah, well, the cardiac kids are well named.
And they always say that if you're watching, if you have sensitive heart, then you should stay away from Nepali match.
Yeah, that's why we love them. That's why that nickname is going to stick with them, whether Stuart Law wants to lose it or not. A very overwhelming experience. On a personal level, I was hugely proud of the players. I thought they acquitted themselves really, really well. Just when a few small decisions, with a little bit more clarity of thought, a bit more experience in those situations, I think they would have closed it out. But again, having never been in that position before, chasing down such a high total against such a good team, it's not easy to do it. From my end, being up in the commentary box was surreal. But also, I've done so much cricket now. I've been doing this for 8 years. I think I've done well over 1,000 international matches. I was perfectly calm and understanding that it could go either way. There's a huge amount of kind of pressure in an environment like that when 3 voices go in together and there's a lot of people behind you in the commentary box. When the games get close, it's where everyone wants to be, so they all come in to kind of feel that atmosphere. And look, was I devastated they came up short? Of course I was. There wouldn't have been a happier man in the world than me, because not just because it was Nepal, but it was against England, and Irish people, we always want to see the better of England in any sporting contest. Whoever's playing against them will always support. But in terms of the magnitude of how big a sporting upset it would have been, it probably would have been the biggest day in Nepal's sporting history by a distance. Might have been one of the biggest days in the country's history in many ways. And they deserved, maybe that moment, but I'm often a big believer of what will be and was what meant to be will be. So whilst I was heartbroken, I was also quite pragmatic about it.
Are you trying to say that it was meant to happen, that they were not?
Yeah, it's part of their journey. I really think it's part of their journey.
So do you really think that these kind of tournament, whenever it happens, it's totally entirely based on the luck? Or is that the mindset or attitude?
No, there's a huge amount of skill involved, but there is an element of randomness to it. You know, who wins the toss at the start of a game is random. Nepal lost the tosses against Italy and West Indies. That was a big factor in those two games. And I think as pundits, as coaches, as fans, we try to apply logic to things always. When there are elements of randomness to it, it's the beauty of sport. You could play the same game 100 times, you're not going to get the same result 100 times. And that is why we tune in. It's one of the few things in life that is so incredibly unpredictable. You've got to watch it live. Watching the highlights is never the same. And that's why it grips us so much. That's why the emotions that the fans bring, from Nepal in particular, are so special. And they're not robots, these players, they're humans. And I think we forget that, but people forget that sometimes. They feel the highs and the lows just as much as the fans do. And I thought the way in which Sampal Kami spoke yesterday evening, both in a little interview he did with me for ICC, but also on his own social media channel afterwards, in terms of that, how that win was for the fans. And look, he's a special character, isn't he? And he's been there and seen it all, the only Nepali to play 3 World Cups. And I was so particularly happy for him last night, and him alongside Dipendra Singh Airi, the Tiger, you know, has not just further announced himself to world cricket, but really elevated his stature through this tournament. They were probably the only 2 players who did themselves justice throughout the entirety of the competition. So I think there'll be a bit of reflection from the Nepal team that, you know, they somewhat underperformed this event, but equally to push England to within 4 runs was a massive achievement. I know the fans wanted to win, everyone on that team wanted to win, but it's part of the process, it's part of the journey. You can only get to the destination by continuing to have these experiences and these moments. They got to keep learning, and that's what they're doing.
But I think, is that fair to say even now that they still need to learn, and then they still need to face more these top champions and the exposure? I think they are enough getting practice and exposure and everything, is it not?
They've played a handful of games.
Is that maybe audience are expecting too high from the developing team?
I think there's probably a little bit of over expectations, being honest. Nepal, in between the 2 T20 World Cups, I think I'm right in what I'm saying, played 3 games against full members.
What was your exact assumption? I really want to know, because if you'll ask me, I really thought that maybe West Indies and England would be difficult, challenging, but Scotland and Italy, I really thought that they would comfortably beat. Was that my high expectations?
I think it's probably just you can't underestimate any of these associate sides now. Italy are a fantastically drilled side. They're probably, for me, they probably may have the best coaching team here at this tournament. You know, they've got Dougie Brown and John Davison and Kevin O'Brien. They're very well drilled, very hardened cricketers with a lot of international exposure and experience, guys from Australia and South Africa with very proud Italian heritage, and they've uncovered some real gems. The leg spinner. Italy should have beaten England. You know, they gave away 70, I think it was 78 in the last 5 overs against them. If they even gave away 60, they would have won that match. They pushed them right to the brink. I think they'll have a real chance against the West Indies tomorrow. And Italy beating Nepal for me wasn't a big surprise, because you've got to play your best cricket. There are no easy games at a World Cup. There are no easy games in the leading associate sides. And you can never underestimate opposition. I'm not saying Nepal were complacent that day, but they didn't play well that day. They were poor. They were really poor that day.
So what went wrong? Why did they really tell him was so poor with Italy? And then when, on the other hand, when they were playing with England, it was unbelievable. Like I said, the last 2 over, I could not watch. I chose life.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And look, there's an inconsistency to Nepal's performances, but there's also an inconsistency to all these associates, because they don't play at these very high levels that often. So, you know, before qualifying for 2024, they'd played a mere handful of games against the very top sides. And you've got to remember that when you come to a World Cup stage, Nepal are used to playing in front of fans, yes, but there are so many additional things that come with a World Cup. The additional media pressure, the additional, like there was, I think, about 200 journalists at every single game. There's a spider cam that's roaming around on the 4 floodlight pylons that's zooming behind one of the players. as he's getting ready to bowl. And he's never seen this before, felt this before. There's 70 broadcast cameras. There's pundits from all over the world asking him questions.
But that affects the deliver?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And to take that in as a young player, in particular, Nepal are a very young side. I think Gulshan Jha turned 20 yesterday, you know. So you've got to give these guys some allowance to learn and grow. And I think any of the stuff online about that they've got to stop learning, now's the time to perform, is unfair, because, you know, every single player is continuing to learn. You speak to Faf du Plessis at the age of 40, he says he's still learning. So you're constantly evolving, you're constantly continuing your journey as a player. And Nepal are going in the right direction, but the rest of the associate game is stronger than it's ever been. So you can't just have an expectation to turn up and beat Italy or beat Scotland. Scotland have been fantastic across the course of the last couple of decades. So I think a little bit of over-expectation from some of the fans, and a little bit of poor performances at points from Nepal across their batting in particular, which has been very inconsistent with the exception of Irie. Their bowling plans, they didn't implement well at all, apart from that last game when Cammy was brilliant. And then, yeah, their fielding was probably the biggest shock for me. It was off where it usually is. It's very, very impressive usually. And a bit of the nervousness, a bit of the additional pressure. They didn't quite adjust to the Wankhede Stadium very well. So, yeah, on the whole, maybe just a B- or a C+ for the report card. Not necessarily the greatest campaign, but they have taken their first World Cup win in 12 years, and that's something that will give them a lot of hope for that next campaign.
I'll tell you what I have observed while watching Nepal games. I think that when they prepare, when they were playing with England, they were well prepared. They were really focused. They were in there, and they really thought that they're going to smash it, or maybe they were well prepared is the word I would select. And after that, they thought maybe they have taken other country for the granted. Would that be correct to say?
I think it's hard to say. I think if you ask each of the individual players, they'll say that they were just as prepared and just as up for those games. Were the levels of their performance the same between those games? Obviously not. They were nowhere near as good as they were against England, as they were against Italy. And again, against the West Indies, I think the West Indies might go on and win this tournament. I think they're one of the best sides in the competition.
Is that because of comparatively with the 2024?
In terms of what?
West Indies.
Yes, so they didn't have a great campaign in 2024. They struggled.
But they were like one hit away again, one run away in 24.
The West Indies?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they didn't really run very close. South Africa, it was in the final that ran.
Is that by fluke? I really want to understand. I'm sure, I mean, you will be the right person who can really make me understand these cricket's terminology and then logic and all that. Sometime when they well prepared, like I will tell you, I was so sure that they are going to win Scotland. If you'll ask me why, because they were well prepared. They had that in their mind that by hook or crook, we need to win this. Yeah. And when they think that, when they come with that attitude, they always perform brilliant. Miracles happens almost.
Yeah, and that's what makes the side very good to watch. But I don't think, if you ask any of the players, there'll be that much of a difference in their preparation between the Italy and the West Indies games and the Scotland game. And I think, again, probably trying to apply logic to something that's quite random and quite chance-based. You know, if Dipender Singh didn't play so well, Nepal would have lost again last night.
Exactly.
And everyone then would have been going, why have we lost all 4 games? But instead they're celebrating, and rightly celebrating, a World Cup win. It's a big achievement. We had Preston Mumpson as part of the commentary team with us. He was a former captain of Scotland. They took 16 years to get their first World Cup win. All the way back, they debuted in 99, and they went through it was actually 17 years. 2016, they took a first World Cup win. And I remember their celebrations in Nagpur that day. World Cup wins don't come easy. Presuming you can advance to the Super 8, being the best 8 teams in the world, doesn't come easy. Even qualifying for the World Cup is a big achievement. And I know there's big aspirations for cricket in Nepal. I know the fan base desires as such, and they want the side to succeed. But I go back to that point that it's part of the journey. And they're progressing in the right direction on the whole. And I hope that, you know, even better days are ahead. But I think for people who saw them run England so close and thought, okay, well, we'll qualify for the Super 8 now, international cricket is simply not like that. It's not that easy. It's very tough.
Tell me, who is the underrated player in World Cup?
For the Nepal team? I'm not sure anyone was really underrated for Nepal in this event. Probably Lokesh Bam was the one who shot himself to prominence a little bit with that one innings. I think his career best prior to that, he'd only had 16 or 17 games, was 39. He made the same score against England, but it was the way he did it that surprised me. He's usually a top order player, and the way he finished and hit those sixes was very impressive. The bowling was really, really underwhelming and really poor, being honest, across the course of the campaign. And that concerned me, a lack of wickets being taken, which is not something that Nepal are usually known for. But really, without Irie, this campaign might have been much worse than it's turned out to be. I think there's lots of positives to take from it because of Irie, and I think what he will continue to do is continue to elevate the standards of the rest of the players. But the experience of Sampal Kami coming back in, having missed the first 2 games, you know, he'll have felt frustrated not to play them. I don't think there was anyone that was underrated for Nepal in this event.
Who's your favourite?
I don't have a favourite player. I get asked that quite.
You already said it's Irie. Didn't you say that?
No, not at all. Look, I love all the boys. Irie's a very special player, obviously, and someone I've advocated for a huge amount around the world. And he's starting to get his opportunities and starting to deserve those chances. He really is. But I suppose his adaptability across all 3 formats of the game, batting, bowling and fielding, the continued power that he's added to his batting, and you know, that innings last night to have 2 dot balls under magnificent pressure from the Scottish bowlers was remarkable. And then the sixes that he hit, the way in which he just has a confidence to him and a belief that he can always drag Nepal into the game. He did the exact same against the West Indies. And across the course of those 3 T20 World Cup campaigns, there's only actually been 3 50s, and 2 of them belong to Irie. So that gives you an idea of his stature. He's also the most economical bowler they had in the tournament. So yeah, without him, it might have been a much more difficult conversation we'd be having now, but hopefully he'll drive this side forward for the future, for sure.
Out of Nepal, if I will ask, which team you'll be more excited to see in this World Cup?
So we're into the Super 8 phase now, with the exception of the last couple of group games. There's 2 more days of those, but those games don't have any consequence on the qualified sides. Look, being Irish, we always support the underdog. It's what we're attuned to doing. We come from an island of, you know, when I was growing up, we had less than 4 million people on it. So we always support the underdog. We always support David against Goliath. It means that we get used to heartbreak. We get used to losing, but when we win games, we celebrate heartily. So I've been following all of the associates' exploits throughout this tournament incredibly closely. I was desperate for an associate win over a full member. Maybe Italy will do it tomorrow against the West Indies. But if not, I'll certainly be following Zimbabwe really closely in that Super 8, because they're a great side. I got a couple of good friends in that team, and yeah, they're a great story. Seeing their cricket rejuvenated back towards where it should be. They'll be the 8th most fancied side in that section, but I'll be cheering for them for sure.
Have you ever been trolled because of your opinion towards any of the player or maybe any of the team while doing commentary?
Do you mean social media?
Yes.
Yeah, look, I don't pay too much attention to anything that
it doesn't really bother you.
Negative online. Water off a duck's back. I don't think you can do what we have the fortune and privilege to do without some people, I guess, not liking it. And it's a very subjective art. The one thing I will always do, though, is try to be fair and measured and balanced, and make sure that, you know, I'm not taking either side too much. If Scotland had won yesterday, I would have been delighted for them and very happy for them as well. But nobody will think that. They'll all think that I was desperate for Nepal to win. When you've got smaller sides together, I just want them all to do well. The one thing I'm biased towards is close games. I want games to be close because I want people to be excited by the cricket. I want them to stay tuned to it. I want them to enjoy it. I want them to have a great memory from it. But no, look, I'm also really lucky. I would say 99.5% of the stuff that gets said online is generally from very kind people saying thank you. And one of the things that really encouraged me for this World Cup was that of the bits and pieces, you do see it, of course you do, the stuff that I was getting from non-Nepal fans, which was quite new for me, because often, being honest, through a lot of the recent years when I've been commentating, it's been, you know, majority Nepal fans by a distance, but a lot of Indian people getting in touch, a lot of people from all parts of the world, from the Caribbean, from back in England, from Ireland, a few from Ireland, but I know most of them, and people just saying, we're so happy to see you on the world stage and bringing something different to the commentary panel than all the former players do. So yeah, really, that was really pleasing, and something you don't listen to the highs too much, and you ignore the lows as much as you can.
Since you are not that updated about the social media, I'll just tell you that the comments all over social media, why Sampal Kami was not playing in 2 games.
Yeah, and And again, that's probably quite results orientated because he did so well in those 2 games. If he had done badly in those 2 games, they would have said, why are they picking him? So I understand the emotions of social media. It's a very understandable thing to want to get on there and type or scream and give your opinion. And, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion. You buy your ticket for the game, you can have your opinion.
Go home and then start typing.
Yeah, I would never...
They are the bigger commentator than those people who are sitting in the commentating box.
Yes and no. Look, everyone is entitled to their opinion. I would never try and take that away from anyone. But, you know, some of the takes or some of the thoughts that are out there are not fair sometimes, particularly on players who train really hard and give it their all. So I wouldn't pay a huge amount of attention to very negative ones. But, you know, those fans there who were saying, why wasn't Sampal Kami picked? You know, there was a reason, there was a plan for that within the coaching staff. Now, he proved them wrong, didn't he, in those last 2 games? He batted so well against the West Indies, and probably the best spell of his T20I career. And that catch he took off his own bowling was a thing of beauty. It gave this tournament a moment that people are never going to forget, for sure.
Quickly, I really want to play with you a rapid fire round. Yeah, no problem. And I really want you to give me your honest opinion.
Quick as I can, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So, one word to the Nepalese people who loves you so much. You know what been saying over there? They want you to come in the election and then be a candidate for them.
Well, before we get into the rapid fire, I promise you I will never do anything political. That is the opposite of me as a human. I'm apolitical. But one word for the Nepal fans: joyous. They are simply joyous.
They might not remember your name, but they have given you some Nepali nickname.
Yeah.
Are you aware of that?
Yeah, Taklu Dai.
Oh.
Well, a lot of my non-Nepali friends call me Taklu Dai now as well, because I'm...
And you're okay with that?
Are you kidding me? I love it. It's a great nickname. Very proudly bald. Bald is beautiful. So yeah, I love it. I think it's nicer than my original name, Andrew. Taklu Dai. What a great name.
One word for Sampal Kami.
Legend.
Dipendra Singh Ari.
Tiger.
Sandeep Lamichhane.
Spin King.
Kushal Vurtel.
Maestro.
Okay. So one word for the International Cricket Council management and coaches. I know it's not enough for just like one word, so you go with a sentence.
Probably can't sum that up. Fantastic event organisers. They do a great job at organising these tournaments that give people so much joy.
One word for Nepali fans.
Stupendous. They are the most incredible.
Unbelievable, no? I mean, wherever there will be Nepalese playing, and then the whole bunch of people will be. They might not remember your name, but they have given you some Nepali nickname.
Yeah.
Are you aware of that?
Taklu Dai. Well, a lot of my non-Nepali friends call me Taklu Dai. Are you kidding me? I love it. It's a great nickname. Very proudly bald. Bald is beautiful. I think it's nicer than my original name, Andrew. Taklu Dai. 1-run defeat to South Africa. In Bangladesh, I think it was 83 for 9. They should have closed that game out. And then this time they came even closer in many ways to England by just 4 runs. With less funding, with less fixture opportunities, with less facilities in the country, with less player pool. They don't have less fans in Nepal, because that's the one thing Nepal brings in unbelievable spades. Like, Italy beating Nepal for me wasn't a big surprise. They were poor. They were really poor that day.
One hit away. Audience are expecting too high. What went wrong? Why Sampal Kami was not playing in 2 games? Last question. Do you think that IPL should also auction the Nepali players?
Well, I've said this on the record very strongly, that if I was any one of the 10 IPL teams, I would already have signed Dipendra Singh Ari. And the reason I would have signed him ahead of, and I've said this miles before the World Cup, is that we've now seen what he can do on the game's biggest stage. And even if he's not going to play in your starting 11, he's going to add value to that squad. He's going to bring a whole mega millions of Nepali fans alongside them. And I think he would really raise the quality of that team. And then when the conditions are right, get him into the side, and I think he'll have an impact. And I think I'll be proven right. I think at some point he will be the next Nepali player to play in the Indian Premier League. We've just seen him signed to the PSL, so maybe that won't be this season. But yeah, some point in the future, let's hope it happens.
Okay, that's it for today. And thank you so much for your
Pleasure.
time. Really late. Yes, namaste.
Namaste.
I'll be
to
seeing
guys.
you
Thank
maybe somewhere around the world.
Dandavad. Yeah,
Thank
cheers.
you
Great
so
to talk
much.
to you.